Hello, this is Life Coach Angelia with a continuation of Works of Hearts Teen Pregnancy Life Coaching Program. This is part 10. And I'm sorry for the camera here, a little dark, it's a different one. I have young plants, as my ministry people know, covering my table because we hadn't planted them in the yard yet. They're still in pots. And, it got cold, so we don't want them to freeze out. So I'm kind of on a different, you know, uh, camera here in a different area, so it's kind of dark. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I think they have so far. Um, so last time we left off on the typology of personal strength when helping these young women. Excuse my little quick wish over here. And we were talking about individual community leaders, at different centers and things like that they have for different women. You have to look in your own area and see what's available so you can have them for a reference source if you're going to coach pregnant teens. So today we're going to continue with community resources and natural supports. That's an extension on what we were talking about before. Clubs or organization memberships. You want to get them involved in something in their community. And like I said, there are, different clubs for young mothers, PB&J and Mommy and Me and stuff like that. Athletic teams. If they're, interested in becoming an athlete after they have the baby, if they've been one before, you want to get them back into that. You don't want the baby to end their life as it was, basically. Unfortunately, some parents tell their children that this has ended your life now. And that's a shame, because it shouldn't be. We all do things. I'm not going to call, a child a mistake, but we all make mistakes that have consequences. Lessons or instruction in an interest area. You want them to keep their interests going so they don't give up on life. Religious attendance and or associated youth groups. If it's okay with their church. And some people are ostracized at church if they get pregnant. That's a shame, but it happens. So you want to keep them involved in church or youth groups that they were in, if that's going to be comfortable for them. If the church and people in their group is coming down on them, that's not going to be comfortable for them, and you're not going to want to put them in that situation. Community employment. They have to learn that this is their child and they're going to have to support it at some point. Volunteer activities, and things like that. And this gives them a sense of pride and a sense of self-esteem. So you definitely want to encourage that. And you have to enlist the parents in these things if they're willing to do that. Professional services, certainly. A professional team. So, you would want to keep everybody in the loop, the obstetrician, if they're getting mental health help, their, provider, you kind of keep everybody in the loop with what's going on with this person. Their case manager, if they're seeing a social worker, people like that. Their past successes, academic, where did they get their best grades? And you want to encourage them to, study in that area because you're going to do well in what comes easy to you. Recreational. What did they do before the baby came? And might they want to continue to do this with their child? Athletic. Again, if they were an athlete and they want to continue to do that, you're going to want them to keep in touch with your coach or whoever that, runs the team. Social. Again, there might be some friends who aren't so supportive. Those are not the ones they want to continue to socialize with. They want to continue to socialize with friends who are supportive and understanding and are good friends to them. Artistic, if they've done anything in art, they want to continue that, overcoming challenges and adversity. They already know stuff happens because it just happened to them. So you're going to help them to understand that life is not all a bed of roses, and they're going to have to be able to meet challenges, and overcome and adversities. Things are going to come against you. They even came against Jesus, so they're certainly going to come against us. And they have to learn to be able to overcome and work through their problems. Goals and aspirations. What do they want out of life? Career goals. Where do they want to be? Do they need to go to college or career school or, whatever? Other goals for the future. What do they want out of their life? Desire to help others. A lot of these people, because they're in this situation, want to help other people, and they can be a peer mentor and things like that. And, that's a good. You can have that as a referral source. Contribute to society. Most of them want to do this. Unfortunately, there are people who think, having a baby and collecting a welfare check is, their job. I've met some of them, so, they're out there. But, they want to make a difference. They want to be a productive member of society so they can have their best life, because if they're doing something that, makes them feel good and they're making money at it and they're doing all right, they're going to feel better, and that's going to be better for their kids. And other, like their health status, they're going to maintain their health or get better at doing that. And the special characters, what makes them them? What makes them them? And they need to think about that. Spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, and they want to continue to be their best self. Excuse me. And how to help them with a deficit thinking, which teenagers do have. And, pregnant teenagers are definitely no exception to that. Strengths-based thinking acknowledges concerns. What are they concerned about? Help them with that, help ease their mind. But considers them within the context of strengths and capabilities and a framework of hopefulness. Because some of these people have now been put in a situation of hopelessness. You want to give them hopefulness. This is not the end of their life. Despite whoever's telling them that, they can continue to have a good life. Replacing concept of deficits, things they're lacking in, with less toxic and devaluing framework. Some parents mean well, some parents don't necessarily care. And they'll say some mean things to their kid, like, you're stupid, you're not good looking, or whatever. And you're going to want to help them overcome that, because those things are not true. Those are mean things that somebody else who's a miserable person has put on them, trying to make them miserable too, and that's a shame. But it's something you want to work on them with, because they need self-esteem. And I mean, that's with everybody. That's just not with pregnant teenagers. And, substitute any mean things with, nice things. It only behooves you to say nice things to them and get them to feel good about themselves. Because then, they're going to give you good word of mouth. And of course, everything is different with everybody. Everybody's different. So everything's going to vary from person to person, and there will be a combination of things that they'll have in common and then not in common. So, these are things that, can help. Now we're going to talk about things we can do to work on their strengths. Defense is a psychological benefit. The psychodynamic perspective. Behavior serves or served a purpose. And you want to encourage behavior that is, helpful, constructive to them. And you want to discourage behaviors that are destructive to them. Delay. Skills lacking, but can be learned. If they grew up in a neglectful or abusive home, they might be lacking in some skills and some knowledge, but you can always catch up, and that's important to let them know that it's not the end of the world if you don't know a thing or you've never experienced a thing. You can catch up. Developmentally, if they weren't encouraged to go to school, if they don't think they're smart, you might want to catch them up a little bit. You might want to catch them up on social graces, manners, wherever you see deficits. Social skills. Sometimes if they grew up in a negative, antisocial home, they won't have good social skills, and that's something you need to work with them on. Teach them some human relations, and social sensitivity, so they can be a productive member of society, so that their children can be. It's only going to benefit everyone, to teach them this. Default, a response to uncontrolled impulses and emotions. This is where people learned negative things, you know, and it doesn't have to necessarily be negative, but how you are. You know, when stuff happens, you fall back to a certain point, and that's where you react from and deal with people from. So you're going to want to set that. You can reset that at a positive point. You know, like, okay, I understand you're mad, but let's not get full of drama and mad. Let's stop and think. Let's come to a point of thoughtfulness instead of negativity. And they, of course, need to learn to control their impulses. You know, that'll make sense to them right now. Because their impulse is what kind of got them in the situation they're in. And their emotions. You know, it's not okay to just blow up 24/7 and purge your emotions on everybody. You know, there's safe ways to do that, and you need to teach them these. Self-regulation. You know, put them in the perspective of self-regulating. They're in charge of their life. They're in charge of their own emotions. They're in charge of their reality. And up to this point, they may not have realized that, you know, because they may be getting a lot of negative messages. And so you need to put them in that mindset, you know, and teach them that, you know, this is the way it should be. You know, you might not have come up this way, but this is the way it should be. And this is the way you should want it for your child. You know, you want to be the best parent you can be. So this is where we need to start from. Disability, physiological imbalance, and mental disorders. You know, if they are disabled, actually disabled kids are more at risk for abuse than a normal child. That's a shame. It says something about our society, but it's true. And in a mental disorder, if they have a mental problem, again, there's some meds they can take, some meds they can't, but you're going to want to keep them on that path of taking care of themselves so they can take care of their child. And again, you want to come at them from a recovery outlook. Like, okay, this is going to, you know, get better. You know, you're having problems now because you're pregnant. But afterwards, you can go back to the normal, you know, status quo. A dilemma, a challenge or a difficulty to overcome. You know, and to look at things from opportunity perspective. You know, some people think a challenge is a problem in their life. They can't overcome it. They don't know how. You know, any difficulties are a major bump in the road that's throwing them off. But they have to look at that as an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to problem solve, an opportunity to, you know, hone their skills and get better. You know, they don't have to have a negative outlook. And if that's what they've learned, that's what they need to unlearn and learn a positive outlook for their life and for their children. It'll be, you know, so much better than, you know, looking at just life is crap and nothing's happening good for me and everything's horrible. That's just a terrible way to look at life. And I'm going to have to pause this because someone's being rude and ringing my phone. Sorry about that. It was nobody wanting nothing, of course. 10 critical principles of strengths-based coaching. Every youth has strengths. Of course they do. Everyone has strengths. Has capacity to lead a meaningful life and make positive contributions. And if anyone's telling them different, then you need to step in and say, they're not telling you right. You know, they're a negative person. Sorry. You know, this is not true. There is no need to presume the positive, because sometimes, even though you want to think positive, you may go too far into that, and there's such a thing as, you know, Pollyanna thinking, where everything's, oh, you know, everything's great, everything's going to be okay, and that's not true. That's not going to be the case. Life is not perfect, but you can perfect it. Every youth wants to do well. Of course, everyone wants to do well. And is doing the best that he or she can. And most of us are. Some of us are not. Some of us are, though. Given their current circumstances. Again, circumstances is everything. Your knowledge. You can only go with what you know. Your support system. If you don't have a support system, then unfortunately you're going to have to go out of, you know, your family or immediate friends you grew up with or whatever to find that. You know, because everyone needs that. Stability. They need to find stability. They need to find some ground under them. You know, I know I didn't have the most stable ground under me coming up. But, you know, I finally got some, and it makes all the difference. Skills. What are they good at? What do they want to do? Because these are the things that they will continue, to work and build on. Every youth needs to receive unconditional respect. And that is something that some parents do not give. It's very conditional, like, I'll like you when you're doing the right thing. And that's, not right. They're a living person. You have this child. You should respect them. And then they will respect you. And that's something that some of the older generations didn't quite understand. Children, were to be seen, not heard, blah, blah, blah. But no, respect is the key. If you want respect, you should give respect. Staff needs to serve as, well, this is in a situation where if they were in a home, because there are homes for pregnant girls, needs to be effective and caring role models. And that includes you as a coach. That should include the parents, but it doesn't always include the parents. So you want to be an effective role model. You don't want to tell them one thing and then act another way around them. And you want to show that you care about them. Don't BS them. Kids can see through that. If you don't care about pregnant teens, don't go into coaching pregnant teens, because they're going to be able to tell you're full of poo. Be accessible. Like I said, you might consider yourself in a big brother, big sister situation if you're coaching, pregnant teens. Non-intimidating. Again, you don't want to come at them, like a parent or, a mean teacher or whatever. You want to come at them as, someone who's teaching them something, like someone who knows, and you want to impart this knowledge to them so that they can have a better life. A willingness to listen. Sometimes that's what they want. Sometimes they just need to sit there for that hour or 45 minutes, whatever your session is, and they just want to tell you something. They just want to unload all the stuff that's been going on. And you have to be willing to do that, even if you have an outline or agenda that you want to get done today. You have to be able to stop and listen and help them with their problems that they want to talk about. Remain non-judgmental. If you're bringing your judgments into the situation, you might not be making things better. You might be putting the same thing on them that the parents did. So you need to not make judgments. And, if you feel like they need, someone to step in with a little judgment, you can say, okay, well, here's what I hear you saying. And from my point of view as, an adult or, a life coach, here's what I see happening from this outcome. Because they might not be able to see down the road. Teenagers are very impulsive. So you can do a little damage control without being judgmental. Be flexible, Some days they might not feel good. They might want to change your time, and of course your schedule is your schedule, so you know what's going to work and what's not. But, be flexible. Instill hope. That is the number one thing. Instill hope, because they have to have hope that their life can get better, so their life, with their children can be better. Okay, you need to recognize that positive therapeutic relationships are more beneficial than any behavioral paradigm or any specific set of rewards. Basically, a good relationship is gonna teach them more than, a chore chart with, stars and they get an allowance, or punishment if they don't do what you want them to do. They're going to learn more from someone who is positively trying to teach them something constructive for their life than they get from any punishment and reward system. You need to listen and try to understand the youth's point of view. Again, you're not a teenager anymore. You might need to, get their point of view and see how they're looking at things, so you know where they're coming from, so you know which direction to go in with them. And don't solely look at the situation based on their own experience and perspective. Because again, they're looking at it from a teenage point of view. As an older person, you can, look back And, we all know hindsight's 2020. So, you can, again, non-judgmentally put it to them like, well, what about this? What do you think is going to happen here? And then say, well, it's been my experience. They need to be supported in verbalizing their needs, because some of them may not have been in a situation in the family where they're allowed to even have needs, much less verbalize their needs. So they need to be able to do that. And again, you need to work with parents sometimes. And if parents are not willing to change, you work with the teen and you get them where they need to be. And using words to gain mastery. Again, something they teach you in preschool, use your words, but also it's good for teenagers. Use your words. Don't get angry and hit the wall or go punch a pillow and get over it. No, use your words. Explain what your problem is now. Explain what you want to happen to resolve this. They need to use their words. And the world would be a much nicer place if everyone just used our words. Excuse me. Be consistent with your efforts to empower the youth. If you're having a bad day, you might want to cancel. Because they're going to pick up on that and they're going to think, oh, well, this person's trying to help me and, they're depressed or, whatever. So, you're going to have to be consistent, with young people. Excuse me. You need to encourage them to stop and think, because, again, teenagers are very impulsive. They need to stop and think about their actions before they take them. They need to make sound choices. Teach them that, they need to make a sound choice. That analyze the choice. How does it affect everyone involved? What is the best choice for everyone involved? Support these parents and community. Again, hopefully they got some good parents and, they're who is willing to hire you to help them. So, sometimes you can work with the parents and the people around them. Sometimes you can't, and, you just do the best you can. Help the youth identify and make use of natural supports. Parents, grandparents, aunties, friends, moms, whatever the case may be. Make use of the natural supports around them. Youth needs to be encouraged to collaborate with helping adults, because again, they're still teenagers, they're not an adult yet, so they need to be cooperative within, a reason, and become a member of their own team. That's what, some of them don't understand is like parent-child relationship, higher, lower, but they can enlist all these people as a member of their own team. They can look at their life like a sports team, if they're the manager, then these other people are doing other things on the team. And they need to be able to help their own self and their child. My goodness, I'm going to sneeze. Ugh. And then, that's more beneficial and constructive to them than taking a me against the world approach. A lot of teens that have attitudes and issues, it's because they come up in an abusive and neglectful home. And so they have that me against the world, like, I can only rely on myself, to heck with everybody else, so this is how I'm going to go on my own. And, that's not constructive, that's destructive to your life, and it will be destructive to their child's life. So you teach them how to have a better attitude, and be more cooperative with people to help construct their life, not destruct their life. And here's some tips for survival for young people and pregnant young people. Identify your strengths and interests, and this is something you can give them as like homework, to do. Have a little sheet, make it out for them. So by writing it down, they internalize it. I'm sure you've all heard that. If you write it down, you internalize it. But give them that to do, identify your strengths and interests. Be proud of them, put this down and build on them, because that's going to help them in life, and it's going to help them construct their life. Seek out positive people and positive role models. Don't hesitate to ask for support whenever you need it. Work with your family, if that's possible, and try to work out disagreements, if that's possible, when they arise. Because I'm sure we all know there are people who are right no matter what. They can be wrong as the day is long, but in their mind, they are right no matter what. So sometimes you just can't win on some of them. Keep yourself busy in positive ways and get involved in your community as part of a team or community organization, by getting a job, or by helping others. Work hard for what you want. You can't expect it to be given to you. Think before acting when you feel stressed or angry, and in general. Be aware of your weaknesses so you can work to improve them. Determine your most effective ways to cool down when you are upset. Remember that your dignity and self-respect are too important to give away when you are upset with someone else. There are better ways to handle conflict. Number one is by staying calm. Carefully consider the risks you take, always keeping yourself safe. Develop positive personal goals and keep your eyes on the prize. Don't be afraid of falling short sometimes. The more you work, the more you succeed. Remember that everybody struggles sometimes, so be patient and be a finisher. Remain positive. Learn how powerful your voice can be when you use it effectively. Be open to mental health services when you or your family needs them. Participate actively in your treatment, because treatment cannot be successful without you. Consider the use of psychotropic medication when this is recommended. Remember, regardless of what services or support you may receive, you can control your own progress. Only you can change yourself. And these are important tips for any person, and especially for, a young person who's made some mistakes and find themselves to be pregnant. So that's all for today. I hope you found it educational and informational. Excuse me. And I'll leave the link in the description where you can help me to continue to put these programs out. And that's all for now. Until next time.